Hello everyone, and welcome to the April session of the Southern Fried DNN user group. We have a good show to run through today. We are joined by friends and family in the DNN community, and we're going to talk about what's going on with DNN, with DNN developers, with the community at large, and some of the events that we have coming up that we're looking forward to here in the year ahead. Jumping right into it, we have two sessions that we're going through for tonight's user group meeting. To begin with, we have Kelli Kropko. Give a good shot at that.
Wow, good job.
That was good.
From Smith Consulting, who's going to spend time talking to us about some new Razor Cart and Razor event related elements. I've seen these recently and have had a chance to not only kick the tires but also do some production within these tools, and they're sharp. They're really great to work with. So I'm looking forward to having Kelli show those off to everyone and kind of present a bit. We will also then have a second session where we jump over and have David and Clint talk a little bit about what's going on lately with DNN Docs. If you were not at DNN Summit, there was a lot of presentation and announcement and really buzz that was at DNN Summit because of release and just the timing of announcements that could be made there. So I sat in on a very engaging session, getting to see everything that was going on with DNN Docs, and I'm looking forward to getting an update and seeing what's new there. So we have that ahead for us in the session, but as we always begin with, we're going to jump into some of the community information and community events that we have coming up. If nothing else, the buzz and the excitement about different things that are happening in DNN continues because we all keep getting together, sharing ideas, and encouraging each other to keep doing more new and different stuff within DNN. So let's jump into talking about events. I'm a bit partial because of all of our involvement with it. So the very first thing for us to mention is that we have official announcement information out on the DNN Summit website for the 2020 event. We have not only pinned down that it is in Florida, which was announced a couple months back, but we now have our venue location at the Caribe Royale, or the Caribe Royale. How are we saying this?
Caribe.
Caribe?
Caribe.
The Caribe Royale in Orlando. It's a gorgeous, scenic location. If any of you went several years back to the event that was DNN World, it was at a resort that was similar and was a lot of fun because we kept going out into these different terraces and beautiful areas and just having our mingling space outside instead of being inside. And I'm looking forward to that here. I know it's going to be a beautiful location and beautiful weather. Don Gingold and the work that he did. Don Gingold is with Sprocket Websites, and he put together a beautiful promotional video about the location and about the information. And if you don't do anything else yet, go ahead and head to the DNN Summit website so that you can see that video, and more importantly, talk it up with friends, promote it, put it out there. Because once we put registration up there, we're going to want people to get registered and give their intent early so we can really help plan this event to the nines. Clint or David or Kelli, do you guys want to add anything in about the event, since we're all in the planning committee and involved in setup? Do you have anything that you want to add on to this? Crickets?
Nope. No, I'm just kidding.
All right.
I mean, you pretty much summed it up really well. I mean, the property is beautiful. There's going to be a lot of stuff to do, but I do think getting the early involvement and the early requests from people so we know how many to accommodate is going to help a lot with the after event, whatever that ends up being, and some of the more social aspects of the conference. So I know we all go for work. But it really is like a family reunion, so I think that, knowing how many to expect is really going to help the planning. So if people, can get in early, they can also save money on early birds. So I think that's also worth noting. So
I'll tie into that and say that this year the timing of the event is going to be a little bit different where it falls in the week. So there's going to be a lot more variability, I think. I myself am planning to bring family down and have family down during the conference and with us there. Oh, the camera's shaking. Oh God.
Oh, sorry. Don't mean to make anybody sick.
I was just looking at it. I was just teasing. Anyways, I'm planning when I'm coming down, and I think that I'm going to spend time and do family vacation the weekend before, have the conference, and then do DNN vacation afterwards.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, I'll be bumpered by vacation time. Because regardless of what we end up doing as a group, I've got to get down to Disney and see the Star Wars new editions that are down there for that point.
Right.
So
we have one here.
You have one there, and yours open first. Yours
like half of the real one.
Okay, well, so DNN Summit is fast approaching for February 2020, and as details come out, we'll keep mentioning it. But check out the website, talk to people about it, help us promote it, and we'll get it out there.
Share that video.
Share the video. On the other side of the pond, we have DNN Connect having their event in just another month or two. I don't know if any of us are going to it this year. David, you're going.
Absolutely.
Well, there was a point where you weren't 100% sure. Okay.
Oh yeah.
All right.
That's true.
Then that is fantastic. Anything you want to say about DNN Connect coming up, other than we're jealous of you for it?
June the 6th through the 9th, and it's in Champry, Switzerland. So plenty of outdoor activities there. Everything from hiking to won't be any skiing probably at that time of the year because we'll be in the summer season there. But beautiful area, nice. Everything you can imagine about Switzerland, it's encapsulated in that little town. It's really great. Good venue. It's going to be nice and it's kind of normal for the DNN Connect crowd. So remember that it's all inclusive. So the registration fee and everything includes not only the conference but all your food and lodging and drinks during the time. So it's a great deal actually when it comes down to it. Yeah. So if you can find a way to get across the pond, or if you're over in Europe already, it's definitely a lower proposition for you guys. So come and join us.
Daniel, are you going?
I am still debating if I go or not, but I know I'm gonna go to the next one, which is in Florida. Where's the next one? 2020.
Orlando.
Our Orlando one, or Florida in Orlando.
Yeah. That's something I can go to. Now I would love to go to Switzerland, but I'm still debating because the biggest expense is really getting there.
Yeah. All right, so we have DNN Connect coming up. Plenty of opportunities to hang out and spend time and share and interact with folks. My understanding is DNN Connect is a different kind of vibe from our summits and DNN cons and things like that. It shows up in the camera there. I'm wearing my Florida shirt from West Palm Beach just to celebrate. Okay, so moving on for our other things. Hey, Dustin joined the meeting. Hey, Dustin. Let's get into some of the news and things that are out right now. Clint, this is where I normally kind of turn it over to you to talk a little bit about community buzz and things that are out there. I'd like to kind of kick off a little bit talking about the DNN community website. This is an effort that is being led by Will Stroll and that group. And there's a lot of opportunity to get involved. And if you have ever thought that you wanted to promote elements of DNN and or looked at other systems and thought, I wish we had XYZ in a community-related site for information and to support the community, this is your opportunity to get involved with that and make that happen. Myself, I would like to be more involved than I am. I am just so absolutely slammed. So if I can help encourage 2 people to get involved who aren't involved yet, I'll have done something of my part to help get this thing successful. So did want to mention that, and one of the things you can do is read through this blog article that Will posted up here just a few days back, and it talks about what they're looking to do and how you can get involved to help with that. Clint, do you want to kind of take it from there and talk a little bit about things? I'll pull up your digest.
Yeah, that'd be good. So one thing is, and you'll see, I think Brian Dukes actually tweeted about this a little bit ago. It's not necessarily in the digest. And that is the next version of DNN. Brian's tweets like, can you please help us test, right? So we're really wanting people to help test. And when you hear like, oh, I need to test, it's nothing crazy. It's like, see if you can install it, see if you can create a page, see if you can add a module, try to like change a permission or add a user. So the tag group has been working really hard at doing a lot of cleanup, getting a lot of like automated builds done. And it's like, as a community, we should really try to help doing some testing, because it doesn't take but a couple of minutes, and you could prevent like a release going out that wasn't ready. So yeah, one thing is please help test the release candidates and actual releases. So, and you've clicked on 932 RC. So
yep.
All right, if you can go back to the digest. Let's see what else is going on here. Yeah, so one thing that did ship in 931, kudos to Mike Smeltzer, the Google Analytics UI had been restored, so he put that in there, so thanks, Mike. We talked about the conferences, and then I mentioned that, down below in this DNN Digest edition, I did a video interview with Kelli Kropko. And so if you're, hearing a lot of the talk about, DNN docs and a lot of energy and momentum around it, you're wondering like, okay, what's going on or whatever. If you watch that video, you can see what's going on, but also understand kind of the vision that Kelli has, and some of the things that we have already done and some of the things that we still want to do. So I think I told Kelli, like, man, it's going to be short. 5 to 8 minutes will be good, and by the time we're done, it's like 30 minutes. So it'd be something good to listen to in the background while you are, coding or doing something. So we got that, and then the featured content was just, some of the localization. If you scroll down a little bit. So the guys at Clarity, actually, Ron Halverson, he put this video out, and it's like, these are ways that you can localize the DNN site. And I mean, this is kind of a marketing technique for Clarity, and they're not trying to hide that, but he'll show like, okay, you can localize this way. And here's one client site where we did it that way. And then he's like, then you can localize this way. And it was just really well done and like informative of just at a high level, these are ways that you can localize the site. So I featured that. And then the project updates, we don't have to read through that, but it's basically, we're releasing 931, and then we've got a couple of OSS extensions. We've got Daniel Etler's Razorblade 2.0, and then also asking people to join the website team. So if you're interested in working on the DNNsoftware.org community site, we have a Trello board for that, and so you can join that. I don't know if you click it if it'll open or if it tries to make you log in, but that shows like what's going on. Yeah, so you can see like things that are being done there. And then I think that was it, other than some tweets maybe that we featured at the bottom of the digest. Yeah, so that just kind of keeps going on and on. Yep. Well, yeah, we got a partner spotlight where we featured Steady Rain, so a little bit about them.
Those guys, those fantastic guys.
Yeah, so Thompson, Knox, my main man.
Yep.
But yeah, so a lot of what's going on in the community now is centered around conferences. DNN Docs, Stroll and Ralph obviously did the Hangouts where they interviewed Cassidy. Hammond has come out with more templates. Andrew Heffling is doing like Twitch live streams of how to code stuff in DNN. So a lot of community activity, and it just never stops.
Chris Stock is also looking for people to help test things as he is doing some updates to his templates and would like some people to even just pull them and do test builds, even if you're not doing anything else to it. So plenty of opportunities to get involved with people, from docs to actual core to individual elements and offerings from people. One of the things you learn when you get involved with these things is you never come away with nothing, right? You get involved, you spend some time, you put some effort in, you've learned something, you've trained yourself on something else new, you've gotten involved, you've pitched in an idea that made a difference, that made it easier for you to use something. There's a benefit to being involved.
Oh, yeah, and I can speak to that too, Ryan. So, you know, I told the docs team, I was like, look, you guys are like way senior than I am on development, but I'll give you a lot of energy if you just train me up, you know. And so, like, I think I crashed GitHub a couple times, and David got me straightened out, but I've been able to motor through tons of just like, well, some large, but some small, all kinds of updates. Just to the content. I mean, it might be like formatting a table or bolding a word or you know, fixing a typo. And so, you know, the side product is I'm learning more about GitHub and, you know, just by contributing in a small way.
That's a perfect example. All right, so kind of wrapping up community elements, I'll bring over and mention, David was mentioning on the way in that NB QuickSight has had some updates just recently. And,
yeah, fairly significant update. 1.3.0 is out, and one of the big benefits to this one is that, well, there's some hidden benefits, but in where it's getting the packages from. Historically, we have always just watched out for releases coming out. We download them to one of our servers, being Envision Native, and put the actual install packages on our server so that we can guarantee they're not going to change names and stuff like that. Back in the day, things were a little bit less stable when it comes to naming conventions and all that.
And you didn't have all of them up in an easy repository on GitHub at one point. But now that they are all there. Exactly.
Now that things have stabilized in GitHub, what we're doing now is and this is all documented out there, and I'm going to put it in our blog, but right now all of the releases come from GitHub. If you're on version 9 or above, you know, anywhere in 9, it comes from the main DNN platform repository releases section. You don't have to worry about that as a user of NB QuickSight, but that is where those are originating from. Anything that is version 8, 7, or back all the way to 6.2, those all come from the DNN archive repos on GitHub, so that we know that we're getting the right packages from there. But the management of that list of files is also managed on GitHub now. That used to be an XML file that sit on our server, and we would have to manually go in, and that's how we would make new releases available in NB QuickSight. Well, now we can get the community a little bit more involved if we're lazy or something and we're not paying attention. Somebody can make a pull request and get it updated. So that's one of the things behind the scenes, and that's actually paving the way a bit. All of that was re-architected, essentially. It sounds kind of simple, but now it's like the file that it maintains, it's a JSON file that has a lot more information in it, and it also paves the way potentially for the future if certain providers wanted to do distributions of DNN. So let's take, for instance, you wanted to have a hotcakes distribution, or you wanted to have a distribution from Mandeep's that installs 3 of their modules or whatever.
All the templates for them,
the groundwork has now been laid for that to happen. Now, we haven't started supporting officially the release of the distributions, but several have expressed that idea over time, and we figure we'll go ahead and pave the way for that to potentially happen. So that's in there. And then also another big thing, and this is related to the release candidates of DNN. Now, as a user of NB QuickSight, you have settings, user settings in there, and you can go in and you can check to opt in to see release candidates. By default, that is off because we don't want your average user just installing release candidates thinking they're getting the latest and greatest of DNN. You know, but as a user that's concerned and wants to help testing, we've tried to make that barrier of testing
a lot easier so you can install the newest release candidate and test in a one-click kind of action.
Exactly. So now they're in there. And also we've exposed a couple other things like some statistics tracking and things like that. And I actually posted some things on Facebook. It was very interesting over the years, ever since this was launched. the usage of ME QuickSight. Now, it's not a hard stat that says X number of installs of DNN have happened. We're not tracking it to that level, but it's like anytime somebody opened ME QuickSight, we were actually tracking, not from a personal information standpoint, but actually through a GUID, said, okay, yeah, they actually opened ME QuickSight. And we've got some really interesting stats, and one of the things I'll point out is that, and I'm happy to share this with anybody that hasn't seen this, but when 9.2.2 release, the usage has just skyrocketed for ME QuickSight. I mean, it almost got up to the month of December alone was almost 1,000 uses of it.
Nice.
And the average use before that was only, oh my gosh, it was less than 100, each month. So it's nice to see that these releases of DNN are, it's some indicator. It's not a perfect one, but it's some indicator. So yeah.
Very interesting.
So go check it out.
Well, so as we move back over to our main sessions here for this user group meeting, is my computer frozen? I will mention that sponsor-wise, we are sponsored by the .NET community, and we have a few different things that come along with that, one of which is we get copies of the Code magazine. If you are here with us online tonight, I more than likely have a mailing address for you, and I'm kind of putting together my next set of care packages to send things out. So we have not only magazines to send out, we have a few items of Razor Cart swag that we will put into the packages and send out to a few folks. David just took off his hat. There we go in the front, but we've got some of those that we can send out as well. And so that brings us nicely right around to talk about Razor Cart and the booking and events module that has been released. This was something that we got to see some demos of and take a look at DNN Summit. And we had a couple of projects coming up myself that were possibly going to use it. It was a week or two out of Summit. I sat down with Kelli to say, okay, show me this thing. I need to see if I'm going to start using it right now. And I was glad that she was able to run through that with me. Again, I said I've kicked the tires on this, and this is simple to use. It is clean, and with the integrations, it's also pretty sweet. So with that said as an introduction, let's turn it over to Smith Consulting and Kelli to give us a little bit of an intro on this new offering.
Yeah, so let's fix that. Actually, Ryan, I should probably get you a new build because we've changed some things. So we're really excited about this. We have Razor Cart booking already, so we've had booking for a couple years now, but there wasn't really a front-end calendar, and that was something that we felt like we were kind of lacking. So that's kind of where this idea stemmed from, being able to integrate a front-end calendar for the users with, our existing e-commerce system. So you guys will see I have, just a calendar. If I jump ahead, let's see, October, November, December, January, February. Wait, too far. Go back. DNN Summit.
There we go.
So, yeah, so it kind of stemmed from the idea we wanted to, have something like this that had the integrations. It's pretty simple. I mean, there's a few different views of it. So there's, the month view. There we go. The month view, the week, the day view. So if you have multiple events in a day, it's going to break it out by time. And then the list view, right? So you're able to view all the events for the current month in a list. Something else that we have that's pretty new that, Ryan, I don't think that you have seen yet is the ability to filter by location. So, and only show events at specific locations. So for users that are using this and have multiple locations like concert venues or libraries, they're going to be able to do the filtering and only see what they want to see. So pretty cool. It's got a built-in search. pretty standard stuff. But I'm going to go ahead and log in so I can show you guys kind of what's cooking on the back end. Okay. So we have, the management screens where you're going to manage your locations, your events, and your categories. So I have a few events created here, and I'll just, create one to add so you guys can kind of walk through it with me. I don't have, here, let's do it the other way. Let's do the category first, or the location first. Something Main Street, 265 maybe? Am I making that up? What's the address for where you guys are at for Southern Fried?
That's crazy memory just to know that. But yeah, 265 Main Street.
Okay, in the city.
Mooresville.
Okay, I was right, but I didn't want to be wrong.
28115. Everybody's coming to your place.
Why is it feeding back now?
What our mic feedback? Oh, it's probably mine. I'm off of mute. Let me put it back up.
That's what it is.
No, it's not.
Okay. So now I've added the location, so I can go back into managing the events and create the event itself. Okay, so the event summary, I'm just gonna and then we'll just go ahead with today at, so it's 3:30 my time. So I know that for you guys it's 6:30, but we'll go with 3:30 because I'm over here on the West Coast. And then that wasn't right. Okay, and then what time does it end?
We'll say 8 o'clock. Oh, it would be 5 o'clock.
5 o'clock.
Yeah.
5 o'clock. Okay. So there's also an area for the event description.
Yep.
There's the rich text editor there. The organizer info, so that's you guys, right?
Yeah.
And you can put in the website, and all of this stuff is what's going to, display on the event details page. It's optional. So it has built-in SEO, so it will by default do a SEO-friendly URL, so it's going to strip out any spaces or special characters and make that the URL by default. But if you wanted to add in any tags or you wanted to do the URL a little bit differently, you have control over that from the event management screen. There's also the ability to do recurring events by daily, weekly, monthly, and yearly. So I'm going to just leave this one not for now. And then in the options, there's featured and pending. So pending isn't going to show up right away. And then we can give it a color. So, well.
Nice. Yep.
Yeah. Perfect. I'm going to leave the text white. So I'm just going to go ahead and save it. And then there is an image management screen here as well.
You have the old logo too.
Wow,
Nice.
look at you. Wow.
Prepped. I don't know if, first off, I'm off with you. Good. I don't know if other systems use this same setup, but within the newer set of Razor-related items, I really like the image management and the way they handle things. The way that you're able to select it, the way that you drop it up, the way that you're instantly putting in the elements of it, the title and the things. It's a really well thought out combination of things when you put it in a picture.
Yeah, so
recently, and this is one of them.
Nice.
Yeah, so that's, also category management, which is pretty straightforward. Again, has the SEO URL built in when you're adding in the category. It also has like a category tree, right? So you can have categories and subcategories, unlimited.
Yep.
So I don't need to add one of those. But Ryan, so this is something that I'm not sure if you've seen yet. I don't know if you were working with Wael when we finish this or not. But I'm going to just, a little module action menu here, and I'm going to go into the settings eventually. Enable Razor Cart integration checkbox. So what you do is you pick your store ID. So I have 2 stores in this portal, so I'm just going to pick the one that I was using. Your product details page, which if you use the Razor Cart, you're pretty familiar with having to select that as well. So it's just, it's super easy on-off. And then update. So what that does is it automatically creates the event item in your Razor Cart store when you create it through the event interface. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my Razor Cart admin console and, create a price, right, or modify an event. So and then just really quick while I'm in here for anybody who's watching that maybe hasn't seen it, this is the Razor Cart admin console, the dashboard, and all of the nav is pretty easy here on the left. I know I did a Southern Fried on it, I think, last year, so that video is up on YouTube, but we also have videos on our YouTube channel, and we love doing custom demos for clients that are considering using it, maybe setting up a couple of their products and being able to show it to them that way. So here I am, and let me minimize that. So it's on the second page. Here's the event that I just created through the events module interface. I can go ahead and edit the event, and so if there's a limited number, so if you're selling concert tickets or something like that, and you have a quantity limit, you're going to want to go ahead and put that in there. You do have to enter SKU, and then you can add a price, right? So if you're using this with the Razor Cart integration to sell tickets, you have the ability to put the price in here and then limit the quantity of tickets that get sold. And then when we're back on the event screen, here it is. And one more time, I'll just flip to the day view so you can see that, we've got a couple different things going in the same day. I can click on it, and it's going to take me over to the details page. It's got the start and end. It's got the description that we put in, and then the ability to add it to your cart. So I think I have the mini cart. Maybe I don't have the mini cart, but the ability to add it to your cart straight from here. Oh, yeah. So something that this also comes in handy with, and while this is loading, I'm going to hop back over here and go back to the products and just kind of show you some other event products I've set up. So I do have a couple recurring events, but this is a concert that happens in my town every year. It's the, the summer concert, whatever. But we have the ability to go in and configure variants, right? So adult tickets are one price and child tickets are another price. So this has like a default price of $25, and then the child tickets are $12, right? So you can go back into the product screen and make any changes that you need to make to the summary and description, and that's all kind of there for you. And you can also modify the information from the RazorEvents page, which I had here, the calendar view. I have these two events set up as recurring events that are just kind of indefinite. I'm going to close out of edit mode because I don't like the way that it puts all these lines all over. But so you have the ability to control the number of occurrences of your recurring events. So I had mine just kind of continue going this, you know, I like the way it looks. And then again, here's that calendar product with the variants for the child and adult tickets. So you'll see here the adult and then the child ticket, and it does change prices. So this is kind of a neat way that we can use the front-facing calendar and integrate with our other modules. So, you know, it's the Razor Cart integration, and then it also can integrate with our Razor Cart booking, which is set up kind of in the same area in the Razor Cart admin console. There's just a booking tab for enable booking if it is a booking product. Does anybody have any questions? I feel like I flew through it kind of fast, but there's, you know, it's a really simple, really streamlined, really clean module. So there's not like a whole lot of complicated things to say about it. We wanted to keep it really user-friendly.
I was going to chime in and say that too, that many times when you're wanting an event calendar or an event display type of thing, the detail view of the pages can be difficult to work with, but in this situation it starts off clean and well organized and simple right out from install. So it's very nicely done in presentation for that detail page, and I know that explaining that to clients, that's one of the first things they look at. So that's in really good shape.
Thank you. Yeah, and whether you use it as a kind of a standalone events calendar module with the regular event details page, or you're using it with the Razor Cart integration and the Razor Cart details page, both are completely templatable with view sets built in. So, well, I'll do it in this tab. Just pop back over to the view sets, and then I'm going to just edit this one more time so I can show you without the Razor Cart integration, the event details page.
Mm-hmm. They look remarkably similar.
Yeah, the event details page is a little more colorful, I feel, but not that it matters, but you know.
Hey, color matters. Come on.
I mean, I'm dressed in all black, so you know it's it doesn't need to be loud and bright and colorful, but it can be if you want it to be, which is kind of what I like about it, yeah. So, again, we have our view sets all available here, right? So you can copy them, edit them, change them, make them look how you want, and then we also, on our website, do have some sample projects for our Action Delegate pipeline where you can actually inject your own custom logic into the checkout. So if you have, you know, unique requirements and you have programmers available, we do have that. And then we are actually in the process right now of making some of the components of Razor Cart open source. So that will be coming soon.
Hey Kelly, would you be willing to show what the edit interface looks like for the templates?
For the view sets?
Yeah, for the view sets. Yeah. No, you don't have to go into too much detail. I know it's probably outside of what you would normally show, but I'm just curious what edit.
No, it's not outside of what we normally show. It's just me. You know, it's a little outside of my realm. But yeah, so.
Okay. So the ACE editor.
Straightforward,
okay.
yeah, straightforward code.
I was curious which editor was being used. I didn't know. So it's ACE editor. Okay.
Yeah.
A shout out too, if we're talking about you were talking about data sets and checkout steps being things that you can pull information from your website. I'll also vouch for the fact that Dustin's online. Maybe he wants to talk to it, but I will also vouch and heavily endorse the clean, perfect structure and setup of the database of everything Smith related. When you get into this is beautiful tables, beautiful store procedures, well organized data, so it is very easy to work with if you're going straight to data as well.
Yeah, I was, I'm not sure if I can unmute myself. Are you guys hearing me?
Yeah, we hear you.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't hear me. But yes, beautiful data structure. One thing that I wanted to ask a second ago with the bit where you can check or uncheck for bookability, can the event side of things, is that at the event level or is that the whole system? So can we have some events that are bookable, you know, whether or not the ticket costs money, or while also having some events that are just notifications of stuff happening?
Yes, but you're still going to need to use the Razor Cart Details page. So it's either Razor Cart Details or Razor Event Details. So this is the Razor Event Details page. Like I said, out of the box, it's just a little brighter. But if you're using the Razor Cart integration, even if they don't need to check out, they don't need to reserve a spot, they don't need to buy a ticket, it's still going to be the same idea. It's going to go to a page just like this. It's going to be through Razor Cart. So
it's that other set of templates.
Yeah.
Sure. Cool.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think so. Yes.
Okay. Cool.
Well, the other thing that I wanted to mention is that I know from personal experience, I put it in the messaging section, but it is hard to generate recurring event records. So, you know, I look forward to getting to use that and not have to finish figuring it out myself.
Yep, well done. Well, so, Kelli, anything else you wanted to show us? Otherwise, I think we're in good shape. We've seen a look. As we kind of wrap up, why don't you tell us a little bit about demo and what's the best place to go to get a hold of trial and install?
Okay, yeah, absolutely. So this is actually our public demo site. So we link to this from our ads on the DNN store and from our website. So we have, you know, just the regular store demo and then a few of our other modules. So, you know, the booking demo, everything's going to be done pretty much from this one site as far as a live demo goes. If there's ever a customer who's interested in using it and wants a more tailored demo or wants to, you know, sit down and have a 20-minute one-on-one demo where we kind of walk through things together pre-sales, I'm happy to do that. We have a contact form on our website, so I'm not logged in as my normal user, so let's see. Yeah, so we have the contact form on our website. It's, you know, pretty straightforward. All you have to do is say, hey, I want a demo, or hey, I have a, you know, whatever anybody wants to say. Here's the venue to do it. It goes straight into our ticketing system, so nothing ever gets lost. But also, just call us. I mean, you could dial that number right now and it would ring to a person. So
yeah.
If anybody has questions ever and, you know, they don't know what to say or they don't know the right way to go about it, I encourage you to just call and talk to us, because if you're between two products or you're not really sure if it's a good fit, we can kind of walk you through what the best way to go about your project would be. And, you know, if it's not a good fit, it's not a good fit, and we'll be honest and transparent about that. So I know that it's no surprise to you guys, but I'm pretty social. I love talking, I love meeting people, and I love meeting our customers. So I'm taking a more active role on our company LinkedIn and Twitter, so I'm still trying to figure out Twitter, but I'm getting there. So that's a good place to reach us as well. And then, as always, you can just email sales or support at Smith Consulting, and it will go to the appropriate department. All
right. Well, thank you very much, Kelli. I appreciate you coming in to share that with us. It's something we got to take a look at a little bit at Summit. So here we now get to put it on video so that others can also see it now too. So thank you very much.
I'll send you the new build.
Oh yes, I do need a couple of installs for things. I'll reach out to you.
You got it.
Okay. We can switch over now to talk with David and Clint about DNN Docs. We have probably a bit of a catch-up to do. Let's maybe start off with a 4 or 5 minute introduction to where things are today and how they've arrived at that point. But then I believe you have some new features, David, that were just released. Feels like they were just released really recently, like
pretty recent.
Yeah, minutes ago. So let's swap over. David, I'm not sure if you're going to share your screen or if you want to pop back over to mine. I really don't have much, but if you want to do yours, that'd be the best.
You seeing the screen okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, Clint, do you want to give kind of a summary of your interview with Kelli? Because it was done so well. and
yeah, it's good.
maybe highlight some of the stuff from his blog, and that might be a good thing to kind of get us started on this.
So I don't have the whole interview memorized, but I will say, look at that fave icon. We have a new fave icon by Mr. David Poindexter that looks great in dark browser, and then we realized, hey, in a light browser, we can't see it, so we added a stroke. And yeah, I was trying to think of a joke that would make sense there, but not be off color, and I couldn't do it within 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Hey, everybody loves some Clarence.
Yeah, Daniel Valanis had to Google Clarence Carter. So, Daniel, did you listen to the song?
Oh my God! Please move on.
I did.
Please.
So, anyways,
So yeah, we have a good-looking fave icon.
Yeah, good-looking fave icon. But yeah, so I interviewed Kelli just to kind of get some exposure for what's going on, because a lot of times when you hear about a docs project, you think documentation, you think, oh man, it's going to be kind of dry, it's not fun, it's not exciting, like why would I, get involved with it? But when you think about successful software projects, open source projects, however you want to categorize it, most projects or companies that are successful, they have good documentation, right? I mean, you look at Particle's documentation, and this is what I was talking with Kelli about in the interview. You look at Microsoft. Like, if you look at over the past, I'd say 2 or 3 years, what Microsoft has done and the focus and emphasis they have put on their documentation, like, it's crazy. They really understand that, like, hey, if we want people to use our stuff, our documentation needs to be easy and straightforward and like step by step and have videos. So they've got their doc site, and we have kind of mimicked some of the things they have done. I say we, David has. I mean, he's on our team, so I get to say we, right? But those GitHub contributors, and I don't want to step on David's toes or steal his thunder, some of the stuff he's going to demo here, but we have really tried to kind of humanize the docs if we can by like showing, people that have contributed. So like you can see there the top contributors, and if you go to any specific page, you can get metrics for those specific pages around like who's done things. So like see those 4 people at the top. So Mitchell Sellers actually landed his plane for a little while and made a pull request, right? So another thing that we stated up front very early in the interview with Kelli is some people come to the doc site and they say, oh man, this is really like Evo focused, or oh man, like why is this organized this way? This doesn't make sense. Well, the reason is because we, DNN Corp, handed the docs over to the open source community. So that's, again, following through on one of the promises from Andy that he's going to empower the community. So they handed it over. And our starting point is what DNN Corp ended with, right? So this is definitely a work in progress. It's a living, breathing organism, if you will. It's constantly changing every day. Just as you saw earlier in the meeting, I merged the pull request from David, and it automatically kicked off a build process. And then 5 minutes later, it was on the live site. So it's pretty impressive that you could literally come in here and make an edit and then submit it, and then within like 5 or 6 minutes, it's live on the site if it gets reviewed and merged, right? So you've got some automation built in, and it's pretty cool. Kelli talked a little bit in the interview about his passion for having good documentation, and talked about how he put a lot of focus in his XMod documentation, which you guys are probably familiar with. So, was there a question?
Oh, Ryan's just started finding places
mute.
that you can help.
I thought it was on mute. I'm sorry. Yeah, I started seeing the screenshots, and I was like, what? And I started complaining in my head about what I was looking at. And I'm like, I can fix that? Oh, God, that's too simple. That's got to be from an ancient server. I can update that. And so I started thinking, sorry.
Yeah, and I mean...
Remind me what page this is, and we'll come back to this when Click gets done, and we'll use that as an example. Okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, so like you can, if it's just text updates, you can easily do that in the browser. You know, if you want to preview your changes, like before you submit them, you can get DNN docs running locally, which there's a guide on how to do that, which Stroll cut videos on, and actually he clicked that improve the doc document button, improved this document button, and you know, made some pull requests. So David, I'm gonna let you like elaborate on those features. I'm just trying to like mentally go through some of the things that we talked about in the interview. So a lot of the things, like you'll see me on the homepage with a lot of contributions, but I'm just going through and doing cleanup work, like dirty work, like making sure links work. So it's not like they're massive things that I'm doing. And you know, I was talking with Joe Craig. He pointed out some page that he didn't like on the homepage. If you click "What is DNN," it'll take you to a page that talks about, like, I don't know, the products or something. He's like, this doesn't even answer the question of what is DNN. And I'm like, that's right. And guess what? Pull requests are welcome. And he's like, oh, I've got major, like, you know, plans to update this page, and it may take longer. And I was like, well, that's fine. It can take as long as you want. But, you know, you can do it. So, I mean, can you imagine if everybody in the community just kind of like, you know, chipped in small updates or areas where they're passionate about, and added to the documentation? I think it could be awesome. And the team has really done a good job. Yeah, Kelly talks about Algolia. So I'd never heard of Algolia before. I thought it was some type of algae or something, right? But apparently they are an awesome search, and they are free for open source projects. So they're crawling our site all the time, and you can see as David is typing in here, it's giving us you know, suggestions, and so it's, you know, really awesome search mechanism that's in there. And one thing I also mentioned or talked about with Kelly is, and David, if you can go to the API section and specifically that page that Peter updated, which I think might be like a portal settings or module set, whatever it was. So most people, when they think documentation, they think, you know, just text entries that, you know, talk about the software. But our documentation actually kind of bleeds over into Visual Studio and the source code, and for that matter, it bleeds into the technology group, right? So when you're coding inside of Visual Studio, you know, you may see sample code or IntelliSense or just some markup in there that actually comes from the documentation, because this API doc actually has to build in a platform in order to create this section. So whenever there's, and so Dustin's asking a question here, we'll answer that in a second.
I'm trying to remember, Clint, do you remember which one that was so that we can show it?
No.
Remember.
Scroll down. It was something, he injected, I want to say
I was trying to remember which class it was. I thought it was user settings or something like that.
Wait, you may be able to go to GitHub and look at pull request by Peter to find out.
Oh, that's a good idea. Okay, I'll do that.
Yeah, but the point is that the API documentation, you can inject custom stuff in there. It is dynamically created from the platform. You can inject custom stuff in there, and then the things that you, the documentation that we create can also help developers as they're getting started, right? And I think, was it Pete Donker? Yeah, Donker right there. So settings
repository, okay.
And David, you may be better set to talk through. Kelly was going off on it. Maybe those remarks or whatever.
Yeah, I can basically show what it is. So like the things that you see here are normal. This is pulling the documentation from the actual code of DNN. So like we put the code in there and it crawls all the classes and pulls out the code comments in here. So a lot of this stuff is generated directly from the code comments that are literally in the code.
So as it gets updated, that will continue to be updated as well?
That's correct. We actually, our build process goes out, looks at platform, and it actually builds docs, the static documents website, off of that copy of platform. So it pulls a copy of platform down, and actually that's part of the DocFX, which is this documentation system. It's part of the build process, building from the code. So that's the entire API section, is that. But what's special about this page and what Peter did was there's something called an override in the DocFX world. So it allows you to put documentation like remarks is one of the examples here. This section is not in the code. It's in our documentation project, but we told the build process to know where to inject this at on this. So like for instance, this setting up the settings class, this is a help, kind of documentation that we're controlling and injecting into the API documentation. So it's actually fantastic. So the idea is to go through a lot of the more commonly used API functions out there and actually really provide some valuable help to people. When we were first starting out the project, we were thinking that it was going to require a bloating, if you will, of the code base and platform or admin experience, but it's like, it's not going to require that now. We can actually do that in overrides here within the Docs project. So it's really fantastic.
Yeah, and so Dustin, thank you, David. Dustin asked a question in the chat. It says, who will do the review approval process of content improvement? So, like if he was to submit a pull request about some, SQL connection thing or whatever, right? So, like, who looks at that? So the answer is it's the DNN Docs core team, of which there are like, 5 of us, right? And, I'm sure we're open to having more team members or whatever. But the thing that's interesting, or one thing that we kind of are tasked with, is enforcing consistency of voice across all of the documentation, right? So, let's say we have Will Stroll submit a pull request, and then Daniel Veladas, and then Ryan Moore. Well, they all are going to have different writing styles, right? So, you may submit something and we see it. If it's just a code change, it's one thing. If it's like you're submitting an article, then, like for me, when I type, I'm very wordy. I'm overly verbose or whatever you want to call it. So I have to force myself to trim down. But I don't have to worry about it because Kelly and David and those guys will kind of go through and say, hey, this is, it could be said better, right? So you'll see, like, for example, Brian Dukes, this page David just pulled up is a great example, module injection filter. So Brian submitted this as a pull request, and he and Kelly went back and forth 2 or 3 times in the comment section on the pull request to get this in a format that, that was matching or consistent across all the documentation. And so, and that's just an example. And so this actual feature, these module injection features, Kelly didn't, I think he said that he may have heard about this a long time ago, but never really understood it or had implemented it. And when Brian submitted his pull request, it's like, oh my God, this is awesome, because A, a community member took initiative and actually did something, and then B, his contribution helped a seasoned DNN developer learn something, right? So that like illustrated the power right there. And David, if you go to that pull request, you don't have to, but you can see the back and forth where Kelly is, working with Brian to get the voice down. All right, so Daniel's saying, I missed a little bit of my question, but in the API docs, there are paragraphs under the more technical info. Does that also come from the XML documentation in the source code or some other way? So David, do you want to talk about the overrides? Daniel was on the phone.
I was trying to find Duke's thing there. Kind of missed the question. Let me read it here real quick. Let's see. There are paragraphs in. Okay, so that comes from the docs overrides. So it's actually static content in Markdown that gets injected into that specific API documentation page, if you will. All right, so like if we go back to that one page that we were on before that Peter did, I clicked on a bunch of stuff. Sorry, I'll get back there eventually. All right, so you've got your normal stuff that's generated from code, right? And then this remarks section here, well, that didn't come from code. This code sample didn't come from code. This consuming the settings in your module, it didn't come from code. Now, when we get down here to constructors, that's from the code comments. So all of that section in between there was injected via Markdown that was submitted as an override to the the DNN Docs project. And so DocFX takes care of knowing where that goes. There's a specific way to do the overrides, and this is something that we're going to have to document. And that was one of the reasons that Peter was going through this process to make sure that it was clear. If I went back to his pull requests here, you can see the files that he did. So he created a file that was in the API doc folder, and that is designated for us to be override files. So markdown files that are in the API doc folder get processed accordingly. Now through the front matter that's on the top, and sorry if this is a bit technical for some, I know Daniel's wanting to know this. So the markdown here indicates a UID that specifies the actual class or namespace that it goes in. So that tells it exactly where to inject it. And then there's a special remarks that you can use star content here, and then that tells the DocFX Markdown engine to take all the content that's below the triple dash and inject that into that spot. And then the summary is something that's required there. So it's actually quite cool, and it makes this quite simple, right? So this is all that Markdown that generated the content that you see starting at remarks.
And David, if you go back to Peter's, like if you look at that on line 54, this is one thing I want to highlight. That triple backtick, and then it's followed by a CS for C#. So you get syntax highlighting, and you could have put like JS or JavaScript or VB. So he put his language there, and it syntax highlights accordingly. So that's a pretty neat kind of hidden feature.
Your next logical question would probably be, well, what flavor of Markdown is being used? The answer to that is that DocFX has its own flavor of Markdown. It is based off of a base Markdown, which is more common, but they've extended that. And also, we have the ability in the project to even extend that Markdown farther. So if there's ideas that we want to put in here that we want to say, hey, when you do X in Markdown, it does this. We actually have the ability to change the Markdown ourselves to meet our needs. Yeah, so
yeah, David, why don't you roll into some of the things you've been integrating here lately?
So one of the things that was mentioned in Kelly's blog post, as well as Clint just mentioned it, is our highlighting of top contributors on the home page. So on the home page here, what happens? We're in Mooresville, y'all. So yeah.
Great city.
So the chainsaw going down the street, I'm pretty sure. The top contributors here at build time of the docs, a API call is made to the GitHub API to pull in the top contributors here and format this accordingly. That is something that's a little bit more of an advanced kind of contribution to the doc project, but we have the ability to do those types of things. It took us forever to figure it out how it actually worked. Because DocFX is not the most documented thing in the world. Kind of ironic, right? Yeah. But I mean, it's documented, but it's like quite mysterious, right? Clint can tell you this took like 2 weeks to kind of figure this out, how to do this. But that's one of the areas. The other area is similar, but it's page level. Oh, go ahead.
To ask this, that's top contributors. Can you go somewhere to see all contributors?
So you can do that on GitHub and do it, but we're not surfacing that through here. We're going to be
I
adding.
thought you should create a leaderboard, Ryan. I said create a leaderboard page where you can go and see all kinds of stuff.
You know, I definitely see the appeal in a leaderboard. It's kind of fun to see your name up at the top, and if you made it to top contributors, that's great. We hopefully would get to a point where we have so many people involved in such a heavy way that there'd be lots of people who are in there who might not be able to make it into a top 6 kind of level.
Well,
and
it'd
they
probably
might
be
be
more
nice
of an
to see their
activity
names.
board or something like
Right, an
that,
activity board.
instead of a...
But at the very least, if you've spent some time and you've really, you're proud of the content you've put in there, obviously you can see the contributors when you're on the individual pages, but it might be nice if there was a way to say, oh, hey, you want to take a look at the things that I've been updating recently, bam, and here's the list of all the things that I've been updating.
Yeah.
That would be good resume material, like if you were interviewing for a DNN job. You could be like, hey, here are all my pull requested DNN jobs, right?
Yeah,
there you go. Yeah.
To some extent, we are, all of us, doing that kind of thing right now with the .NET Foundation and proving where we get involved in open source contribution, and that could be one of the things that we present out.
Absolutely.
So, anyway.
Top contributors right now, that was our first entree into GitHub integration. So now that we've got that figured out, we have to watch our limits on API calls and so forth because, let me give you an example. The DNN Docs project has what's called conceptual files. So conceptual is anything that we actually, there's actually content in Markdown written. So that means all these administrators, content managers, designers, and developers, all of that right now, the way it's organized, those are called conceptual documents. But we have 600, as of the last pull request I saw, there were 619 conceptual documents in the DNN Docs project. So for this other feature that we're showing here of the creating this page level contributors, we're actually hitting the GitHub API 619 times during the build process, okay? So if you start doing math, GitHub API, limits us to 5,000 calls per hour for an authenticated request, and we are using authenticated requests to that. So we can only do 5,000. So if you start doing the math there, we can do about 8 builds within an hour and still not hit our GitHub API limit. So we do have to be a bit careful. So like the top contributors, we only have to make that call once and then display it on one page. But this other feature, which is a page level contribution, so if I go to, let's go to that what is DNN page here, you'll see that there's 3 contributors. Well, during the build process, we had to hit the GitHub API and find out who the contributors for this doc was. So that's one API call, right? So those things like that, if we're talking about page level statistics, we have to be sensitive to that and how many calls we're making. If it's global type things, then we can do that a little bit more loosely. So yeah, that's one thing here that's really nice to see. And clicking on any of these avatars will take you to that user's GitHub profile. So in this case, we're going to the DNN Docs man, Clint Patterson there. And we can see what his green dots look like, right? They've gotten a bit more clustered there. So the other 2 features that you see in here may not look like much, but it's actually quite valuable. This date tells us what the last edit to this document was done, when it was done. Now, when we created this project, they all got a starting date, right? But now, anytime we make a change to a file, it'll get a new date. So this one's, February the 28th, 2019. If we go to one of the other ones, that's April the 16th was made to this one. So that was recently added to it, as well as an estimated time to read. So we kind of stole this idea from Microsoft Docs. They do this on theirs. So if you see any of their documentation, they've got this as well. It looks almost exactly the same here.
And is that a
so that is a calculation.
Number crunch of
It's
letters?
a very simple math of the average reader can read 130 words per minute. So there's something built in DocFX that tells us exactly what the word count is for every Markdown file that's there, and we do a simple calculation of that there's some additional logic in there to make sure that we don't ever have a 0 minutes to read kind of thing. We always do less than 1 minute to read on very small files. So like on this one here, less than 1 minute to read. The other feature that was shown recently is applies to, and you'll see here that on this page, this particular document applies only to evoke content and evoke engage. Whereas if you went over to the set up a DNN folder, that applies to DNN platform as well as Evoke content and Evoke Engage. This is a fairly recent addition that was made, and it's kind of cool. It gives us a bit of context in here. And that's handled really through the front matter of the markdown files, is kind of where that ultimately gets built from. But if you're looking in the front matter of a regular markdown file, so I'll just go over to the GitHub project, go into content folder. By the way, that's where all of the conceptual documents are. So if we're going to administrators, let's just pick one here, building your site.
Well, look how clean that is. Oh my God.
So one of the things in the markdown here are DNN additions. So that information is resurfaced through the actual static file, HTML file that gets created at the end for the website. All right. So that was kind of cool, and then I'll focus on two other things. One is, and this is really to encourage anybody that's watching this now or after the fact to feel empowered to contribute. You may say, "Oh my gosh, I don't understand GitHub. You know, it scares the crap out of me. It's too technical. I don't know what I'm doing there. I might break something." We've got a feature here that just got launched today called feedback. So this feature is for you. This is where, okay, I see something that's wrong with this document.
Yeah.
I don't feel comfortable trying to figure out how to edit that and make a pull request, but I do want to let somebody know because,
at least put in, hey, this is wrong, or this needs to be elaborated, and you can spend 30 seconds and put out a tip.
So what this magic button does, and this is contextual to the page that you're on.
Nice.
So right now we're on the set up the DNN folder and user account page, right? If I click the feedback button, it's going to open up a new tab. It's actually going to start an issue for me. It's going to auto-populate the title with feedback for, and then whatever the title of the document is. And it's going to tell me, oh, enter my feedback right there. So that's where I put my stuff. Now below this, it says, don't edit this. Now I'm going to switch over to preview mode here, okay? But this is what it looks like to the reviewer once the issue is submitted, and we can just click this, and it'll actually, I'm going to do it in a new window, it'll take me right to the file that they're giving us feedback on, right?
Nice.
So if I flip back over to here, you don't have to worry about all this down here. You just put in your feedback right here in this spot, and you click submit, and you're done. Okay? So we're trying to make it as easy as possible. Now, they do have to have a GitHub user account. So if they were not logged in, I'm logged into GitHub right now, so it took me right to this. If they don't have a GitHub user account, they'll get the typical GitHub landing page where you can either create an account or log in. And so that is the one barrier, but you know, this is where the stuff lives. So, you know, this is our first step into feedback.
Makes it easier.
We're excited about it. It's definitely lowering the barrier. Will we have something in the future that doesn't require a GitHub user account? Maybe so. That's a good idea to do. I'll flip back over. So let's say you are comfortable with GitHub and you're like, yeah, I want to go ahead and make this change. I'm Ryan, and I know that this other setup IIS thing is really outdated, and I just want to update these screenshots and some text in here.
Yeah, those are going to be my follow-up questions, by the way, is when you're putting these things together, what are the requirements for screenshots, about versions you're screenshotting within and elements you're putting in? I've noticed several good tool tips and little number bars. Some of those are made with Snagit, some of them are made with other tools. Are there any guidelines about the things you do or don't put into screenshots? So and then video is one of the next questions I want to get to.
Right now, that'll be handled through the review process, and we don't have it clearly documented. Okay. However, Clint has done a great job at doing the contribute to the DNN Docs project section. Remind me, and we'll get back and look at that real quick.
Okay, I'd like that.
Yep. So let's say you're on this page and you say, this is wrong. I really got to update this. So you can click on the Improve This Document link, and what that's going to do is actually take you to the file in the repo so that you can then click Edit, and then you go into the actual markdown here.
Yep.
So, you know, there's things everything that's in between the triple slashes here, or triple dashes, that's called front matter. It's in YAML format, YAML.
Yep.
So this stuff does some things. Just, you don't have to understand it all, but you can read the comment down here. And this is fairly straightforward Markdown flavor. Markdown. There is some DocFX related flavored Markdown in here. Like, for instance, you'll see these xref, colon, and then something there. This right here is actually a hyperlink that this is going to generate with this text, right? And this xref, this goes to what's called a UID.
That's for a cross-reference.
So the UID for a document is actually right up here. So if I wanted to link to the setup IIS page, I would use xref setup. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and that's beneficial that so every hyperlink that you see in the Docs project, it uses xrefs. And so I had to create thousands of these in the initial migration. But it's beneficial because you can move the docs anywhere you want. Like, I just restructured tons of folder file paths, and I don't even have to worry about breaking links because the system automatically figures it out based on those xrefs for you.
Yes, you could completely kind of screw up a new file and put it in the wrong place. As long as that front matter is unique up there, for this UID, everything will at least work. But we'll catch a lot of these things in the review process at this point. But you would come in here, edit the file, and then give a little comment here. Now, I'm one of the owners of the repo, so I have more features.
Remove, you never have 4 periods for any reason. If that's ellipses, make it 3. If not, just cut it out.
Where was that at? I'm sorry.
You scroll down a paragraph.
Or up or down? Okay.
Down. There we go. Add.
All right. So here.
We got 4 dots. Come on.
So we want to change that to a proper ellipse, right?
And right there.
And right there.
Whoever this is was.
So we're going to do this.
Too liberal with their periods. It's
now,
only 3.
I am an owner in this repo, so I've got a little bit more options than you're going to typically see on this. But what you would do is come in here and say, correct.
Grammar correction.
So whatever the action is that you're doing, correct. Ellipses. How do you spell that?
E-L-I-P-S-E-S.
S-E-S?
Ellipsis?
Yeah.
It don't matter. We know what you mean.
Yep. Grammar or whatever. Spelling. Whatever. Yeah. Ellipsis. All right. And then,
there's 2 L's. There's 2 L's.
2 L.
All right. There's the police. I needed somebody to police that. All right. Never use ... Always use ... right? Now, you're going to only have one of these probably. I've got 2 emails associated with my GitHub account. But now, since I'm the owner, I have the option to commit this directly to the master branch. We don't do this. You're going to see this. All right? It's going to create a new branch. It's going to actually fork the DNN docs repo into your own GitHub repo. And you can name this anything you want to, but you can also just use the auto, what it is. And I'm going to just leave it like it is. I'll say propose file change. Now, it's going to actually ask me automatically. I've already done my commit, and it's going to get me to do a pull request for it. So in this case, I'm just going to create the pull request. Right? So there's my changes down here. I'm just going to click create pull request. So it's kind of a 2-step process. You edit the file. You commit those changes, and it'll automatically generate a pull request for you.
Okay, so when you're doing this, if you want to keep working on it for a while, you don't want to commit the pull request yet because you're going to come back to it later and work on it.
That's correct.
What's the method there?
It's a little more involved, but what you're going to want to do, well, see, Clint's already approved this, but if I wanted to go and make changes to this, you'll see this message when you do it. Oh, crap. Clint.
My bad.
Damn it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to revert this. I'm going to undo what Clint just did.
Hater.
Oh, crap. I'm going to really screw things up now. All right. So,
do another change.
Here, well, I've reverted it. So what we're going to do is you're going to see this line here that says add more commits by pushing to whatever the name was when we created that. So you'll want to click on that. Notice my URL changes up
to your version.
Well, it did not. I would need to click on this. So this is it's because we did this reverting thing. That would normally take you to your repo, so I'm just going to go over here This is actually, yeah, that's not, because I'm an owner here, we kind of screwed all that up. But if I go to, here, I'll just do it this way. Oh. If we go to,
You're welcome.
I should have told you, sorry. Envision Native, and I'm going to go to our profile here. If I go to repositories, I will have a fork of DNN docs. So I go to that, and then here, I'll actually see my latest commits in my branch. So if I go to the branch tip, I didn't process that revert fully. I think I canceled out of it.
It's okay. It's okay.
One thing we could mention too, because what I was trying to do by approving it quickly was show the automated build process, right? So when I merged that and approved it, that build process should get kicked off, and then your correct ellipsis should be reflected on the site momentarily.
Yeah, it's hard. Where were those ellipses? Here, we'll just do it again. 1, 2, 3, 4.
No, they're already gone. There's 3 there.
It remembered my stuff there.
Okay, so we were in the middle of the question of how do you edit and then keep editing, and
it's more complex.
It's more steps, it's more elements, but it's still simple.
What you do is you can actually just commit more commits to that PR, and they'll add up. So
and when you finish doing a pull request, and if you have multiple things that you've been committing in or adding into, you still do them one at a time, or can you do a whole group when you're doing the pull request?
You can do a whole group, but in this context, you probably want to do one file at a time. We're prepared for that.
Yeah.
To get that in, don't worry about that. Make it simple. Keep them coming in.
Okay. All right.
Once you get comfortable with it, so Will Stroll did 2 videos out there on this, and you can find them on YouTube under the Bendo Ventures YouTube account. One of them is this simple process of doing it in the browser. And the second video is a little bit more involved. But if you're familiar with the tooling for GitHub and all that, that's really a better way to do it if you're going to be making more than a few changes at a time. Okay. It'll be quicker for you. You can clone the repo locally, make the changes, and so forth. So I'm actually going to undo this whole thing that we just did here so that we can see it again. But yeah, that's the big thing is, if you don't know GitHub, you don't want to deal with actually putting the edit or doing the edit yourself, click feedback and actually submit the issue on GitHub. We try to make it as easy as possible. If not, try to improve the document if you feel a little bit more comfortable. And if you want to dive deeper and do multiple commits and things like that, then we're happy to help, but also the videos by Will Stroll.
You mentioned the contribution guidelines or contribution.
Oh yeah, thank you for reminding me. Okay, so on the very home page here, there's a contribute to the docs under the get involved. So if you click that, Clint's done an excellent job of writing up how to go about doing this. And Will made some updates as well as he was preparing his video. He found a few little things in there that he could add to it. So this is a great starting point if you're interested in contributing. It goes through a lot, but there's always the simple path and the more complex path.
And I think Ryan may have been making a suggestion for a document that we probably should include, which is like, I don't know, guidelines for contributions, like image width, things like that. So Ryan, feel free to suggest that, create an issue and or pull request, and we will get it worked in.
Okay.
And I'll mention, when you come to that page, this will be collapsed. If you expand that out, you'll see more articles. There's more to it here.
No, and I'm looking at this thing animated down below. Is that a video?
That's an animated GIF that I shot in Camtasia and exported as an animated GIF, whatever, instead of video.
Okay.
Now, video
is animated GIF video a recommendation? That's got to be a heck of a GIF.
Yeah, that's pretty big. It's not the recommendation. I don't know that we have a recommendation right now, but I will say, when you're talking about video, we're open to video, but the thing is, we we want to enforce consistency, like we said, and we also want to make sure that people aren't like, you know, hey, go buy my product and then you can do this or whatever. You know, it's just like not too promotional.
Well, I'll ask some more questions about that as sidebar because I want to. That's one place that I know I can contribute to some of the training things that I do for people.
Brian, I would encourage you if you had an issue on GitHub about it. I mean, that way we'll have to address it.
Okay, we have kind of reached the end of our
and who said we couldn't fill it up?
Time here for Southern Fried DNN. At good timing for us to wrap up our kind of deep dive into docs and what we can do to participate in it. Any questions lingering around in the chat? I was watching at one point, and I didn't catch up all of it. Anything else new here from Dustin or from Peanut Gallery? Nope. All right.
I think Daniel had a question, something about images. Need to pull it.
Yeah, images, animated GIFs, so anything that's content. This does not work in the browser, so you need to pull it. But
so if you want to get the actual documents project running locally, I would recommend, I mean, those are in the instructions that Clint wrote up as well as in the video that we'll put together. But you're going to have to get DocFX, actually, that environment up and running.
Also.
You can install that through Chocolatey. And
I did.
then you can clone the repo. And at that point, you can run docfx --serve, and that'll actually serve up the documentation. Now, the build process is quite lengthy. If you pull down the DNN.platform, if you clone that repo into it, your build time is going to take exponentially longer. So, like, if you're really not doing anything on platform, I would recommend not having that folder present locally. That way, your build time will run about 6 minutes or so.
Wow.
Yeah, I did that, and I tried it and just give it a look. But my question was, if you want to add images or video or something like this, will it be on a folder here and it's going to be committed on GitHub, or is that content elsewhere?
Yeah, so those images.
See my folder or not, or my screen or not? Can you see my code?
Yeah.
So this is the DocFX. The DNN Docs project clone locally, and there is an images folder that has all these in there. Right now, all of the images sit right there in the image folder, and reference those in the actual document itself to that. So,
yep.
All content, the markdown is under the content folder. API doc folder is for these overrides that we're playing around with. API is that's all the stuff that's generated from the platform project. And plugins, this is the project for some custom plugins that we've done. And templates is the templating system for it that establishes the look and feel and a lot of the functionality, if you will, of it. If you're going to dig into the templating, talk to me.
So I'm curious, on the plugins folder, I saw some C# code there, so you can write directly C# and it's going to get compiled?
That is correct. So the way that we're doing the contributors right now is there are document processors. They're hooked into the DocFX process. And this is the example of the GitHub stats that we've got for the repo. The repo stats project is the global stuff. The page stats are the page level processors. So this is just a hook into the DocFX system, and we're doing what's called a custom build step. And that is what's actually making the call to GitHub and manipulating that data and adding it to the model that is then accessible in the templates of the custom template that we have.
And that runs every time there's a merge of any commit?
The build of the C# project does not run when you build the project. This has to be compiled by itself. The way that we've set this up is when you actually compile or build the solution or the project, it actually copies the output DLL into the templates. I'm sorry, I should probably do this in code so you can see it. If you go in the templates folder, DNN docs, plugins, there's the DLL. So that actually gets put into there from the Visual Studio project. It gets compiled to that location. That's what the DocFX build process picks up on.
And when does that file run? On every visit, or?
Oh, at build time only.
At build time only. Yeah, at build time it generates the DLL.
That's correct.
But let's say the GitHub, right here you're using.
Now the DLL is not generated at build time. That is a separate project in this plugins folder. You are literally manually running that or building that project, and it copies the DLL into the plugins folder for the template. The DocFX build just picks up on any DLLs that are put into this plugins folder.
Okay,
I know it's odd. It's weird.
Yeah, no, I guess my question is probably wrong. Right now, the GitHub stats you made, that pulls GitHub stats from GitHub.
Yep.
So when does it pull? When does that code run? On every visitor, or?
At build time of DocFX. So locally, if you were to build it locally, it's going to make those GitHub API calls.
Okay.
And when a PR gets merged on the GitHub repo, the CI build on Jenkins actually does that, right? It runs
that answers my question. Okay.
So maybe that connects.
So that would fire up every time there's a merge.
That's correct. So the stats are only as good as the last merge.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, we've kind of wrapped up a good Southern Fried here. We got techie and got into some details with DNN docs, but we also talked about the intro higher level or lower level where the community can get involved and make it easy to give feedback. That's part of the features that were just released before we started the meeting today, as well as being able to contribute and really help improve documents. If you spend any time with it, I'm sure you're going to be able to find spots where you can make improvements and suggestions, even if it's just to change a couple of periods in a sentence. And joking a bit, we also spent some good time here with Kelli, taking a look at Razor's new features for the RazorEvents and the connection into the larger picture there with Razor booking and events and the Razor cart system. Thank you, Kelli, for being here. And so I'll take a moment here to say to David and Clint and Kelli, thank you for presenting here for us. So a round of applause. All right.
Thank you for having me. It's always so much fun to hang out with you guys.
That's the point, right?
I hope so. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm doing it wrong.
We're giving good ideas and suggestions and inspiring each other, right? So we're kind of wrapping up here our event tonight. Our next Southern Fried DNN user group meeting is going to be May the 16th. As always, it's the third Thursday in every month, and we will have some special guests in town with us. Andrew Heffling from Heffling Software is going to be here on that event, or at least is shaping up those plans right now. So we'll put out information soon about the topics for that specific meeting.
So Kelli, fly on down, and you can join us.
Absolutely. So we'll say goodnight to everyone for now, and we will see you online and in all of our community locations here over the next month until we see you again for SoFri. Thank you very much.